Well, I guess just how there was a meeting between Trump and Netanyahu, or not Netanyahu, Zelensky on Christmas Eve. Now there is one between Trump and Netanyahu instead. Well, I say instead, but you know what I mean. Similar thing, Mar-a-Lago, the meeting between Satan Yahoo and the President of the United States, where, well, this time, funnily enough, when Benjamin Netanyahu was like flying to the United Nations in order to speak there, he had to like take like this really strange winding path in what the hell is his name? Is like presidential plane? I think it's like the Wings of Zion or some shit, whatever. He had to like go around a bunch of signatories amongst the European Union for the warrant for his arrest by the ICC, because he has a warrant out for his arrest. Should be fairly obvious why. I don't think we really have to go into the reasonings for that, but he currently has a warrant out for his arrest for fairly obvious reasons, and he had to take this winding path. He didn't take the winding path this time. I guess I don't know, no fear. Hashtag no fear in Benjamin Netanyahu's mind that he's not going to face any consequences for this, because it's like, well, if I got away with it for the United Nations, then I can get away with it here. And I guess he is technically getting away with it here. Sure, whatever. But yeah, we all know what's the point of this. Currently, as it stands right now, I think reports have said that there is a current ceasefire that is in place, that's been in place for the latter part of about 2 months, and it's a ceasefire which the Israelis have been consistently breaking for at this point a couple hundred times, right? Like I think it's like 850 plus times the Israelis have broken the tenets of the ceasefire, and now they're sort of going ahead with the second phase of the ceasefire, which is essentially just the Biden ceasefire proposal, but just basically taken by Trump and is trying to be implemented here. Going to be kind of hard to implement any other sort of tenets of this ceasefire when the tenets of the first phase have already been consistently broken, because now this is the point in time where Hamas is supposed to disarm. But I think Hamas themselves have been consistently saying, like, why should we disarm? The Israelis have not been following any of the tenets of the ceasefire. Meanwhile, we have been following the tenets of the ceasefire, but the Israelis have not been. Like, personally, I don't think that Hamas should disarm at all whatsoever, because of the fact that why should you trust the Israelis and the United States of America in negotiations here? They have been proven themselves to not be honest actors. So it takes two to fucking tango. So if the Israelis show that they are being honest in their negotiations and following the tenets of the ceasefire, which obviously has not been the case, and Hamas is also willing to show to be honest and following the tenets of the ceasefire, and the U.S. is supposed to do its main job of enforcement of the ceasefire, which they clearly have not done and have not outlined any sort of enforcement mechanisms if the tenets of the ceasefire do get broken by the Israelis, which they have been 800 plus times. Why should Hamas follow any of the tenets of the ceasefire? Why should they? It's already all inherently dishonest. They don't have to follow shit if they don't want to. So, I don't know. Let's see. What do we have here by Satan Yahoo and the Orange Man himself?
Good day, I'm Hallie Jackson in Washington. Let's take you right out of South Florida to Mar-a-Lago, where President Trump is welcoming the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's taking a couple of questions. Let's listen in.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is...
Is he talking about Venezuela here? I think there was like some reports that basically said that I think the CIA did a drone attack on a Venezuelan port, and the justification here is essentially like, yeah, this is where they load a bunch of drugs. This is their drug loading area. Any evidence for that? No.
No longer around. I don't want to comment.
President Trump, yesterday there
actually, and I don't. I just heard about it actually, but I don't know about it. That would be too bad. That would not be good.
From what I understand, Zelensky has actively denied that happened, and it's a propaganda thing from the Russian state, because the only people that have been saying that this is a attack that happened on one of Putin's sort of residencies have been the Russians, and obviously, similar to the Israelis, anything that comes out of the mouth of Russian state media should not be trusted.
Here, tell them all with President Putin's. I had a very good talk this morning. I waited till this morning because it was pretty late by the time we finished, like 2:30 in Russia, 2:30 in the morning. We had a very good talk. We spoke at 8 o'clock in the morning, our time, and it was a very productive talk. I mean, we have a few very thorny issues, as you can imagine.
Great talks.
Thorny issues probably better than anybody in the world. It's working out. We have a couple of issues that we're going to get resolved, hopefully, and if we get them resolved, you're going to have peace. You're going to have Ukraine losing 26,000 soldiers a month. Can you believe it? A month, 26,000 young, beautiful soldiers, and plus some people in Kiev, and relatively small, but a lot, still people, and it's a lot of people. But 26,000 soldiers were killed last month. Yeah, please.
You know, I wish a lot of like the dumbass sort of like NAFO types, those the weirdo, annoying like dog PFP weirdos. There's a bunch of them that are okay, but a lot of them just do like liberal sort of like rah hegemonic sort of bullshit. And that's like basically their whole shtick, where they also defend a lot of the actions of Israel. And a lot of them have come to the realization of saying like, man, Israel really does not like the Ukraine now, do they? It's a little strange. It's a little weird. Why is that? I find that very, very, I don't know. I was going to say eye-opening. Not eye-opening, but I'm very, very glad that these sort of, I don't know, vestiges of liberal sort of like hegemonic values and whatnot is essentially being destroyed in the eyes of those people because of the fact that, well, Israel just wants to basically, I don't know, live like their perfect sort of socialist, not socialist, but like Darwinian sort of like utopian sort of project of, well, the only thing that matters is the might makes right.
Do you expect Turkish forces to be stationed in Gaza?
So I have a great relationship with President Erdogan, and we'll be talking about it. And if it's good, I think that's good. And a lot will be having to do with maybe we're going to be talking about that. Turkey's been great, and he's been, excellent as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about this. To me, he's been very good.
Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu and how important it is for you to see him be pardoned by the Israeli president.
Look, he's a wartime prime minister. He's done a phenomenal job. He's taken Israel through a very dangerous period of trauma. Israel with other people might not exist right now, if you want to know the truth. That's a pretty big statement, but it's true. I feel that you had the wrong prime minister, Israel right now would not exist, because they were met with a force the likes of which very few countries.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I believe right now at this current juncture, basically Benjamin Netanyahu is dealing with corruption charges, and Trump is essentially trying to do everything possible in order to get a pardon from Israeli sort of courts for him specifically to get a pardon for his fucking actions. Should Benjamin Netanyahu get a pardon for the fact that he is incredibly fucking corrupt? Obviously fucking not. He is very, very, very corrupt. Very, very corrupt fucking shithead Benjamin Netanyahu is. So does he deserve a pardon for any of his fucking actions? Absolutely the fuck not. But, Trump is essentially trying to get that pardon now, and is essentially trying to make the Israeli state capitulate, much also to the chagrin of a lot of people within the state of Israel as well. They also want a lot of judicial sort of power to be curtailed, and a lot of judicial power has been curtailed, which has not been very, very popular amongst the Israeli populace, believe it or not. Although, honestly, from what I understand, like, Likud has been benefiting politically now recently. I guess mostly because of all the bombings that keep happening or something. I don't know. Like, Israel's, like, such a fucking mess of a country. Like, Satan country. Like, unironically, dude. Like, it's so fucking bad there. And it's one of those situations where it's just like, yeah, dude, we just want the vestiges of the judiciary system to be completely destroyed, so I don't know, Benjamin Netanyahu can continue justifying his fucking ethnic cleansing campaign of the Palestinians, which is genuinely insane. Like, it's so bad that I think, like, you know, for all the talks of all these people complaining about Sharia law, for example, the fact that essentially, like, Jewish Sharia law, unironically, like, Jewish Sharia law has been implemented within Israeli fucking courts, like, I think they're called, like, pay courts or some shit. I don't remember exactly what their name is. But, like, some of these, like, unironic Sharia law courts, religious courts, have been implemented within Israel. For what purpose exactly? And to basically just screw over a bunch of people.
Could have handled, and we worked together, and we were extremely victorious, to put it mildly. Now I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down, we'll knock the hell out of them, but hopefully that's...
Well, of course, they were going to build again. Like, nothing's been really done in order to tamper the Iran effect. Okay, whatever, dude.
Not happening. I heard Iran wants to make a deal. If they want to make a deal, that's much smarter. You know, they could have made a deal the last time before we went through, you know, a big attack on them, and they decided not to make the deal. They wish they made that deal. So I think, again, they should make a deal.
Iran should have made
they
the
want to make a
deal.
deal, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Yeah, please.
Mr. Trump, WMA-524 News Israel. Would you support the overthrow of the Iranian regime?
Who?
Iranian regime.
I'm not going to talk about overthrow of a regime. It's, they've got a lot of problems. They're in. They have tremendous inflation. Their economy is bust. Their economy is no good. And I know that people aren't so happy, but don't forget, every time they have a riot or somebody...
Yeah, basically the Iranian economy at this current juncture, there's like a bunch of protests within the country happening at this moment. Might take a look at some of those. Basically, as a result of the bombing campaign that happened in tandem with the Israelis and the Trump administration, the United States of America, that is. Basically, it's causing a lot of problems for the Iranian economy. Like, their currency has basically lost 60% of its value. And there's a lot of extenuating circumstances for that, obviously. But that's the current reasoning for as to why there's a lot of big protests happening within the country of Iran, that is.
Forms a group, little or big, they start shooting people. You know, they kill people. And the people tend to... I've watched this for years. There's tremendous discontent. They form 100,000, 200,000 people. All of a sudden, people start getting shot. And that group disbands pretty quickly. So I watched it for years. Vicious people, yeah.
Mr. President, will you support an attack, Israeli attack on Iran if Iran will not have a deal? If Iran will continue with their ballistic missiles and also nuclear weapons?
If they will continue with the missiles, yes. The nuclear, fast. Okay? One will be yes, absolutely. The other was, we'll do it immediately.
Mr. President, one of us from Channel 12 News. What are your plans regarding Gaza for the next few weeks?
We're going to be dealing on Gaza. That's why this very great Prime Minister is here right now. We're talking about Gaza. We're talking about a lot of things. We have about 5 major subjects that we're discussing, and Gaza will be one of those subjects.
Mr. President, can you guarantee that the last hostages, unrevealed, will be released before we continue to the second phase of the Gaza strike?
Well, let's put it this way. Every hostage just about that's been released was released because of me, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, my whole team, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth. They were all released because of us.
All me.
None
That's
were
all
released
me.
in the Biden administration. None. They were all released because of us. Then we had a lack of releases with respect to the dead. And all of a sudden they started coming back because they said...
Well, I mean, that's because, like, the Biden administration was not really interested in beginning any of the negotiations. Like, again, I'm going to reiterate this, mostly because of the dude that's right next to you, basically doing everything possible to make the negotiations as difficult as possible for the Biden administration. Because, again, the current ceasefire proposal that Trump is implementing right now is the Biden ceasefire proposal. He didn't come up with that shit. Benjamin Netanyahu didn't have a problem with it. It's just that he specifically hated the Biden administration because he hates Democrats and prefers Republicans to be in power. For what purpose exactly? Because he knows that he can get something out of the Republicans more so in comparison to the Democratic administration, right? Because at the very least, there will be some accountability done by a Democratic administration. Some, kind of, I suppose, in comparison to that of the, well, Biden administration, which, Biden administration, in comparison to that of a Republican administration, which will just let, Benjamin Netanyahu over here just do basically whatever he wants.
I said, nope. You said we have one wonderful young man whose parents are right now inside. And he's what beautiful parents, a beautiful brother, sister, and like beautiful family, and they're waiting for their son. It's the only one left, and we're doing everything we can to get his body back. And the parents just said, hopefully he's alive. And I said, I'd love you to think that way. Okay?
President Trump, President Trump,
Out of all of these people, and I'm not just talking about the final 20. Right. Look at all of the people. What do you think the total number is?
255.
255.
254 came out. One more.
Think of that. And we got them all.
President Trump, reconstruction of Gaza. President Trump, the reconstruction of Gaza. Gaza reconstruction of Gaza will begin even before Hamas is disarmed.
I think it's going to begin pretty soon, yeah. He's looking forward to it, so am I. Look, what a mess. What a mess it is. And it's been a mess for centuries, really. It's been a mess for a long time. It seems to be born for that, but we're going to straighten it out.
This has not been a mess for centuries. This is a recent advent because of, again, people like Benjamin Netanyahu and the state of Israel essentially promoting that instability for the express purpose of them being able to continue with the ethnic cleansing campaign that they are doing of the Palestinians, right? That's the whole intentionality behind it.
No, we're already starting certain things. We're doing things for sanitary conditions and others. But Gaza's a tough place. You know the expression, it's a tough neighborhood. It's truly a tough neighborhood. Yeah,
Tough cookie, folks.
Go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
I'll ask about the relationship between you and the Prime Minister.
What about it?
There is no relationship, good relationship between you.
I don't think it can be better. We just won a big war together. You know, if we didn't beat Iran, you wouldn't have had peace in the Middle East because nobody would have been able. The Arab countries who have been fantastic would not have been able to make a deal. If we didn't wipe out their nuclear, we wiped it out. If we didn't wipe out with our beautiful B-2 bombers, if we didn't, and we sent a lot of Tomahawks in there also, by the way, from a submarine.
And what about the pardon, the president of Israel and the Prime Minister?
Pardon? I think you will. How do you not? He's a wartime prime minister who's a hero. How do you not give a pardon? You know, I think it's a very hard thing not to do it. I spoke to the president, and
Yeah, so again, we talked about this earlier, but Trump is basically hardcore pushing for Benjamin Netanyahu to get pardoned by the Israeli fucking Supreme Court, trying to put his thumb on the scale specifically in terms of that dispute, because again, Benjamin Netanyahu is incredibly fucking corrupt, very, very, very much so. And basically acts as like a belligerent. Not as like a belligerent. It basically just wants to curtail and get a pardon for his corruption charges. For what purpose exactly? Just for the express purpose of being able to stay in power for longer. Despite the fact that he's been basically found guilty of being extremely fucking corrupt, he's still going to try to stay in power because, again, we're dealing with a corrupt fucking fascistic, Holocaust fucking revisionist here.
it's on. I mean, he tells me it's on its way. You can't do better than that, right? Please.
Can I follow up on Venezuela? Was the facility taken over by the U.S. military, or was it another entity like the CIA?
It was along. Well, I don't want to say that. I know exactly who it was, but I don't want to say who it was. But you know, it was along the shore.
Mr. President, have you or anyone in your administration talked to the Bureau recent days?
Well, I spoke to him.
Recently?
Pretty recently. Reasonably, but nothing much comes of it. Yeah.
Mr. President, can you explain
You have to understand what he's done. They've sent billions of dollars of drugs in. But maybe just as bad, they've sent hundreds of thousands of people in from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions and insane asylums. The drug lords, the drug dealers.
I don't think we really need to just go over how this is just a fucking lie, right? Like, this is just a fabrication by the Trump administration here in order to justify an invasion of Venezuela.
Were all sent into our country. But think of it, what he's done. Trende Rockwell, probably the worst gang. They cut off people's fingers. One man made a phone call to complain about them. He cut off their hand. They cut off his hand. Don't ever make a phone call again. We'll cut off your hand. After that, we'll kill you, they said. That was in Colorado. They sent in all of the bad ones. They sent in some bad people. And that to me was just terrible. And they sent
In Colorado, Trender Agua in Colorado. Is this about like that weird slumlord situation where someone was fucking lying about that in order to force out a bunch of tenants there or something? Something which like fucking TYT of all outlets decided to fall for no reason. Okay, dude, nice meme. Of course this dumbass would repeat that fabrication.
drugs. Now, I will say this. 97% of the drugs coming in by sea stopped. We're trying to figure out who the other 3% are. They have a hard time getting people to pilot those boats. But 97% of the drugs coming in by the ocean, by the sea, by water, are gone. Every boat that we take out, we save 25,000 lives of Americans. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you. We're going to have a big meeting, and we'll see you in a couple of hours if you'd like. And if you'd like, you can come up and have lunch like you did yesterday. Would you like that or not? Do you want that? Because some of them think it's terrible. It's a bribe. But, you know, a bribe for $25, I don't know. If you'd like, you can go. And if you don't, you can stand in a driveway and melt. All right? But if you want, will you work on that, Margot? Is Margot doing a good job? She's a star. She's too nice. Her only problem, she's too nice to you. And you're not nice to us, but that's okay. Margot, take them up and have a beautiful lunch. We'll see you later.
We're going to strike, strike on food residents with stuff at least.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good. I heard about it this morning. You know who told me about it? President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked.
Again, as far as we can tell, complete fucking fabrication there by the Russians, but Donald Trump's probably just going to capitulate to it because... but Donald Trump's probably just going to capitulate to it because of the fact that, well, bro's a Russian asset.
That's no good. It's no good. Don't forget, you know, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, it's a delicate period of time.
No, you did not stop the Tomahawks. You wanted to give the Tomahawks to the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians were like, fuck yeah, please, give us some fucking Tomahawks. And then you had a talk with Putin, your favorite little Russian asset. Not favorite little Russian asset, but your favorite little fucking dictator. You had a talk with Putin, and he said, like, don't give them fucking Tomahawks. And then you decided not to give Tomahawks to the Ukrainians. That's what happened in reality.
This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they're offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it.
Yeah, of course.
What?
Putin said that his house was attacked, so clearly his house was probably attacked.
Well, it came out. Well, we'll find out. I mean, you're saying maybe the attack didn't take place. It's possible too, I guess. But President Putin told me this morning it did.
I'm going to believe everything Putin says.
You call President Trump the strongest friend from the state of Israel. You work with numerous administrations, numerous presidents. Can you expound on what makes President Trump such a strong friend from the state of Israel?
I'll say it again and again and again. We've never had a friend like President Trump in the White House. It's not even close. And I think you can judge that by not merely by the frequency of our meetings, but by the content and the intensity. I think Israel...
Okay, so I guess we're going to get into this real quick. I believe the Israelis basically decided to give, like, Donald Trump some weird, like, LARP shit show fest, like, award or something for saying how good of a little, I don't know, freak, like, I was going to say Asmongold, how good of a little freak for Israel Donald Trump has been, basically speaking, where they decided to give him some award that's never been given to, like, a non-Israeli person for the past, I think, like, 70 years, 80 years or something like that. You know, a genuinely fucking insane bullshit. But then again, I'm not really surprised by the fact that this current administration is basically doing everything possible in order to capitulate to, well, Benjamin Netanyahu over here, much to the chagrin of his own sort of, like, political base and coalition. They really do not like the fact that Donald Trump is basically like, yeah, our president's like a fucking Zio show. We hate that. Like, all the little Nazi fucking freaks that populate the Republican Party are not very happy about the fact that essentially the president is completely I was going to say, like, subservient. I don't want to say, like, subservient. That's not really accurate to say. But basically, we'll just do everything possible in order to give Benjamin Netanyahu everything that he wants.
Is very blessed to have President Trump leading the United States, and I'll say leading the free world at this time. I think it's not merely Israel's great fortune. I think it's the world's great fortune.
Well, I just want to say that it's very important who the Prime Minister and President of Israel is. We have a great relationship. It was an honor to speak before your leaders. That was a great honor for me. I think it has not happened before, or something they told me. But the relationship's been extraordinary, and Bibi's a strong man. He can be very difficult on occasion.
Very strong,
but you're a strong man. If you had a weak man, you wouldn't have Israel right now. Israel would have been, Israel with most other leaders would not exist today. They would not exist. And now they're stronger than ever. Yeah, please.
Israel is so strong now.
Well, I hope he's going to get along with Syria, because the new president of Syria is working very hard to do a good job. He really is. I know he's a tough cookie, and he's, you're not going to get a choir boy to lead Syria. That's the one thing I would say. So I hope they're going to get along, because, I dropped the sanctions on Syria because otherwise they wouldn't have had a chance. We want to see Syria survive. So we're going to be talking about Syria, too. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good time.
Well, that's all Abrahamic Accord bullshit there.
Have a good lunch.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, there's a lot of tasks, right?
After you hear these things, I think better quit now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, YouTube ads. I believe they decided to go into color commentary there from, like, whatever bumblefuck, like, I was gonna say content creators, pundits. I don't really care about, like, the little punditry here. So obviously, since this is a press conference being done by Trump, there was a follow-up press conference between the two leaders here. Leaders, quote unquote, with, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu and also Donald Trump going in and just, I don't know, yapping about, like, with the press about more questions. Just curious to see what do these mans have to say for themselves.
People can come in. Come on over, fellas. We had a big meeting with a lot of people, a lot of talent from Israel and from the U.S., and I think we came to a lot of conclusion and conclusions, and there's very little difference in what we're looking at and where we want to be, where we want to go. And so I just want to thank you for spending time. I know you're going to be
over
for a couple days, and maybe we'll be surprising us on New Year's Eve. That'll be fine. And it's wonderful seeing you and Sarah and your whole group. Very talented group. We've done very good work together, and it'll continue. So thank you very much, people.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I love Israel.
I have to say that in addition to what I said, that we've never had a friend, even close, a friend, as President Trump in the White House. I think he's been extraordinary in his friendship and his support for Israel, his principled positions, his willingness to just cut through to get to the essence of things. And I don't say that as a compliment. I just mean it. People have heard me say that behind your back, Mr. President, many times. But But I want to say something else. I think we have a partnership, if I can quote you, second to none. I think it's allowed us to do enormous things. People said there was a different conception at one time, which means that America can advance its interest in the Middle East if it opens a lot of daylight between it and Israel. And President Trump has done the exact opposite. He's achieved remarkable things in the Middle East because we work together. We talk about our ideas. Sometimes we have different ideas, but we work it out. And most of the time,
I mean, we've talked about the sort of consequences of the Abrahamic Accords. I mean, part of the reason for as to why October 7th even happened to begin with was because of the Abrahamic Accords, essentially forcing, at the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu, forcing the Palestinians into a corner such that there is really no other option for them besides to violently resist, which of course works for Benjamin Netanyahu. He is totally okay with that sort of standard basically being in place because he can use that as a way to essentially, well, force more suffering for the Palestinian people. Because, listen, when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, for him, if he can do basically anything possible to cause further suffering for Palestinians, he'll do it in a fucking heartbeat. He is, like, just the modern day Hitler of our fucking time. Like, unironically, he is, like, a miserable fucking wretch, and will just do basically anything possible in order to, well, cause more misery for the Palestinians. If, honestly, like, he could, like, I don't know, stub his toe and it causes the death of, like, 5 more Palestinians, he'll stub his toe consistently, like, all the fucking time. He 1000% would do it. But it's one of those situations where it's just like, man, it is just a bad time for the fucking Palestinians because of this, like, unironic, like, Holocaust fucking revisionist being the main guy that's basically in power within Israel, because, oh boy, he will do literally anything possible to cause more suffering for the fucking Palestinian people. He gladly will do it.
And we see eye to eye, but it's been a remarkable experience, and this was a very productive meeting. And may I say a very good lunch? Thank you.
So
thank
productive.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your support. It's meant from the heart.
I love sucking
As
off
I said
Trump.
outside, he's been a wartime
Getting sucked
prime
off.
minister, and we were, well, I guess I could say I was a wartime president in more places than just Israel, if you think about it. But Israel was a big factor, and we're with you, and we'll continue to be with you. And a lot of good things are happening in the Middle East. We have peace in the Middle East, and we're going to try and keep it that way. I think we will be very successful in keeping it that way. And you've been a great friend.
Now, we're not going to talk about the 800 plus times that Israel has violated the ceasefire agreement in phase 1. No, we're not going to talk about that. Okay.
And I've been a great friend to you and to Israel. It's been my honor. And the award that I was given was really surprising and very much appreciated.
Well, President Trump has broken...
Yeah, there's the LARP award that I was mentioning earlier. Yeah, basically, in order to continue the appeasement of Donald Trump, because I think he was caught on a hot mic moment during this specific interview. He was fucking complaining about the fact that, they didn't give me a Nobel Peace Prize. I'm very upset about that. Why didn't they give me one? I wonder why they didn't give you a Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, yeah, because, like, all of the wars you keep saying that you had a hand in resolving, in reality have not been resolved whatsoever. That's, like, a complete fucking cope there by the President of the United States of America. It's like, nah, dog, you really did not have any hand to play in the resolution of these conflicts that you pretend to think that you have resolved. It's like, get the fuck out of here with this bullshit, bro. Like, get the fuck out of here with this, like, weird fucking LARP cope bullshit stuff, bro.
So many conventions to the surprise of people, and then they figure out, oh, well, maybe he was right after all. So we decided to break a convention too, or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli, and we're going to award it this year to President Trump. This was announced formally over lunch by our Minister of Education, who was responsible for the Israel Prize. It's going to be awarded to President Donald J. Trump for his tremendous contributions to Israel and the Jewish people.
Yeah, that's the name of the fucking Israel Prize, bro. Like, okay, bro, Jesus Christ. I think that alone has made like 50 more Groypers.
It's such a fitting thing, and it would honor us, obviously, Mr. President, if you could visit Israel in that occasion on our Independence Day. But I have to say that this reflects the overwhelming sentiment of Israelis across the spectrum. They appreciate what you've done to help Israel and to help our common battle against the terrorists and those who would destroy our civilization. So, again, that's an expression of thanks and appreciation.
Thank you very much. That really is a great honor. Any questions, please? We'll go pretty quickly because pretty much we agree on most of the things, and you would know what most of those things are. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to know if you and the Prime Minister talked about having Israel pull back its troops before Hamas fully disarms. I know that's been an issue. Did you push for that today?
Well, we talked about Hamas, and we talked about disarmament, and they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm, and we'll see how that works out. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in charge of that from our side.
I already mentioned that I think Hamas themselves have also said that they're not going to disarm whatsoever because, again, why should Hamas disarm? Israel has not been following any of the tenets of the initial ceasefire proposal. They have, like I said, violated it about 800 different times. So, again, why should Hamas follow any of the tenets of the fucking ceasefire when there is one side of the ceasefire negotiations who have not been following any of the tenets of the deal? That, of course, being the Israelis.
But if they don't disarm, as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them. And we don't want that. We're not looking for that. But they have to disarm within a very short period of time.
Israel withdrawing its forces?
Well, that's a separate subject. We'll talk about that.
Mr. President, do you have a message for the Prime Minister about the West Bank? And are you at all concerned that Israeli settler violence could be undermining the peace plan?
Well, we have had a big discussion for a long time on the West Bank, and I wouldn't say we agree on the West Bank 100%, but we'll come to a conclusion on the West Bank.
If I could ask, what is the disagreement?
Well, I don't want to do that. It'll be announced at an appropriate time. But he will do the right thing. I know that. I know him very well. He will do the right thing. Yes.
There is a growing fear of confrontation.
Hasn't Trump already gone rather pissy about the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu has done a lot of actions that made him look really, really bad in terms of, well, not only specifically about the West Bank, but also within Gaza itself. He got fucking pissed, man. He would be like, they don't have, listen, I don't know why Benjamin Netanyahu's acting this way. They have no idea what the fuck they're doing. It's some complete bullshit. What's going on here? And it's just well, dog, it's because he's playing you like a fiddle, man. That's why. The current actions that he's taking and the things that he's saying, it's all for the express purpose of just flattering you specifically, so then Benjamin Netanyahu can continue to get away with the fucking ethnic cleansing campaign that he's always wanted to do, which you've essentially, well, let Benjamin Netanyahu get away with for, I was going to say in hell and high water, but that's not exactly the correct saying here. He's basically just given Benjamin Netanyahu everything that he's wanted in a, well, silver platter.
Between Israel and Turkey. How are you going to ease this tension given the fact that President Erdogan called Mr. Netanyahu Hitler and compares Israel to the Nazis?
Well, I know President Erdogan very well.
Yeah, so I believe because of the fact that the Turks have been particularly upset with the Israelis because they have not been following many of the tenets of the fucking ceasefire, and they've just been not honest actors, and they've been because here's the thing with the Turks really do not like the Israelis because of a lot of the stupid belligerent actions that they have been taking. Unironically, Israeli commandos have killed, and I'm going to say this again, killed a bunch of Turkish activists who were trying to break some of the initial people who were trying to break the Israeli blockade of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank by trying to bring in aid to those organizations. They tried to break that. What did the Israelis do in response? Deploy a bunch of fucking commandos and killed a bunch of Turkish fucking citizens, which the Turkish people have not forgotten about that, and they are quite particularly pissed about that. And is Benjamin Netanyahu going to do anything about this in order to atone for any of those crimes that he did? No. And in fact, he's perfectly okay with these actions being taken by, well, Israeli fucking commandos and whatnot, because for him it's just well, all we give a shit about is just causing more and more suffering for people throughout the Middle East, because fuck them. Yeah, fuck them. We don't like Arabs. We have an ethno-nationalist ideology that we need to uphold, so if we can just cause a bunch more suffering of people for no reason, yeah, we'll fucking do it. We don't give a shit. And that's pretty much the Israeli position in a fucking nutshell. If they can just cause more suffering for no reason, they'll do it.
As you all know, he's a very good friend of mine, and I believe that, and I do respect him, and Bibi respects him, and they're not going to have a problem. They're not going to have a problem. I know him very well. And you've seen me do things with President Erdogan in Turkey that nobody else could have done. We're not going to have a problem. He's done a fantastic job. I'm with him all the way. I'm with Bibi all the way.
Erdogan's
Nothing's
doing
going
a
to happen.
great job.
Yes.
Wait, Mr. President, are you concerned that Israel is not moving quickly enough to phase 2 of the peace plan?
Well, I'm not concerned about anything that Israel's doing. I'm concerned about what other people are doing or maybe aren't doing. But I'm not concerned. They've lived up to the plan. They're strong. They're solid. And sometimes they don't understand when somebody violates something that you want to give them a second chance. Well, we'll give them a couple of second chances. But I know Israel's lived up to the plan 100%. Don't forget, we made the plan possible by taking out Iran. And speaking of Iran, I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading, that they're building up weapons and other things. And if they are, they're not using the sites that we obliterated, but they're using possibly different sites. We know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, and I hope they're not doing it because we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2. It's a 37-hour trip both ways. I don't want to waste a lot of fuel. Okay?
Mr. Trump, after your last remarks regarding the request of Prime Minister Netanyahu, Herzog office told us that you have not talked after.
Well, I mean, we've already talked about, like, the thing with the sort of, like, marginal sort of damage that shit did in terms of the, whatchamacallit, the ceasefire? Not the ceasefire. In terms of the sort of attacks on Iran, basically that it really just didn't accomplish anything. It was just like, yeah, like maybe it got delayed for a couple of months. Otherwise, there hasn't been really any changes whatsoever in terms of the situation on the ground for the Iranians. Like, this is only just like a temporary malaise for them, and that was really, really about it in that sort of respect. So again, it's one of those situations where it's just like, oh, essentially, like, the status quo has been like hardly fucking changed whatsoever. And the Iranians, not the Iranians, but the Israelis basically were just doing this for the express purpose of being able to assert more of their own attempts at hegemonic control within the region for themselves, much to the chagrin of, well, a lot of other sort of powers within the area, which certainly is not working out for I was going to say, like, working out for the Israelis. Not exactly. Basically, like, in terms of the position that Israel wants for themselves specifically, all they essentially want to do is basically just cause, well, not only to have hegemonic control for themselves, but basically just cause a bunch more suffering for people for no reason, basically. And just have their fucking ethnic cleansing campaign within the area. That's like the basic sort of gist for as to what's happening there. It's honestly, it's fucking terrible. And basically the Turks have been very upset with the actions that the Israelis have been taking in the area, for the fact that they have just not been following any of the tenets of the deal at all whatsoever, and they have just not been happy with that, generally speaking.
The official request of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Can you clarify to us? Did you talk about
What's the question you're talking about?
with the President Herzog, the Israeli President Herzog? Did you talk with him directly?
Erdogan?
Herzog. The Israeli
Oh, so you're
President.
talking about Putin?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got to say that. No, I think he's going to be in great shape. He's a wartime prime minister at the highest level. He's achieved tremendous success. And I'll say it, if you had 8 out of 10 prime ministers in his position right now, or before right now, maybe, you wouldn't have Israel any longer. Israel would not exist. I'd say two of them would, and 8 of them wouldn't. Those are not good odds. You needed a very...
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but Benjamin Netanyahu is a corrupt shithead who should be in fucking jail. And the Prime Minister, Isaac Herzog, has been basically lobbying the President of the United States to basically be like, so, could you just basically give a pardon to the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu? It'd be really, really cool and epic if you did that. I don't think Trump has the ability to be able to do that. And we all know about the attempted weakening of courts that is being done within Israel at the behest of not only the sort of further right, ultra-Orthodox, like, Jewish constituency that exists within Israel, but also at the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu himself, because of those corruption charges that are currently swirling around his head.
special man to really carry through and really help Israel through this horrible jam. These are major factions, and it started with our negotiation with Iran. I think it probably started with Soleimani. That was really where you mentioned that today. We started with Soleimani, bad guy doing bad things, hurting a lot of people, killing American soldiers and other soldiers. But it started right there would probably be the starting point.
Qasem Soleimani was probably one of the most effective, like, countervailing forces that the Iranians were using against ISIS specifically. And Trump, during his first administration, like, if we all recall, like, the sort of like, oh, well, this is World War III. Well, here we fucking go, boys. The assassination that Trump just basically randomly did of Qasem Soleimani was probably one of the main catalysts that were leading to that. Because, again, this basically pissed off everybody. It pissed off the Europeans. It pissed off Americans. It pissed off, obviously, the Iranians. It's just like, why would you just bomb the shit out of Qasem Soleimani? Like, that literally just, you just did that for no reason. Like, what the fuck is this bullshit, bro?
And then from that point forward, but you have a wartime prime minister at the highest level. There could be other wartime prime ministers, but they'd lose. He won, and I think the people of Israel appreciate it. I think a lot of the people in the world appreciate it, actually. And because of that victory, we were able to get peace in the Middle East. If you had a different kind of a personality, if you had a weak person or a stupid person, and there are plenty of both of them.
Yeah, it's just nonsensical that he's saying this. Like, there is no peace in the fucking Middle East because of this shit. It's so fucking stupid, dude.
You would not have had success, and you might not have Israel. And you report for Israel. I know you're very proud of it. You do a great job. You might not have a job because there might not be an Israel right now if you had a different prime minister. That's a big statement, but to me it's a very simple statement to make. I'm looking at Pete Hegseth, and he's sort of nodding. If they don't have a strong prime minister, Pete, you might not have Israel today. I think he'll go down in the record books. And, you know, I was a big help. I'll be honest, big help. Somebody said in the room, you need a proper combination of everything. And if you didn't have that combination, which they had, you would not have an existing Israel right now. And the people of Israel know it. That's why they like me, and that's why they actually like him. He's got a little bit of love-hate more than I do over there. But you know what? Even the haters have a lot of respect for him. There's a lot of jealousy about him. A lot of jealousy. Jealousy is a bad word. But I believe you would not have Israel right now, so it's a big deal. Yeah, please.
Stupid. Recent poll showed that as half of Gazans would be willing to leave the Gaza Strip if afforded the opportunity to do so. Back in February, you said that all Gazans would be.
I heard the number today, half of Gaza would leave. I've always said it. I said if they were given the opportunity to live in a better climate, they would move. They're there because they sort of have to be. I think it would be a great opportunity, but let's see if that opportunity presents itself. But we're
unironically just being okay with the fucking ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians within Gaza. Like, what fucking polling is this even fucking coming from? What kind of fucking schizo nonsense is this? Like, oh yeah, you know, there's definitely a bunch of polling saying that they just want to basically leave. Yeah, totally, bro. It's like, okay, bro. Yeah, sure, dude. POV, you said absolutely nothing wrong. Yeah, exactly, Zane.
We're helping the people of Gaza a lot. So is Israel, by the way. So we'll see what happens. But I saw that there was a poll. It was actually more than half the people would leave if they were given the opportunity. And I've been saying that for a long time. To me, it was common sense. So it's interesting.
Why wouldn't countries accept them?
It's common sense to do ethnic cleansing.
We don't want the country.
Guys, I didn't know that it was common sense now. Like, Zane, did you think it's now common sense to do ethnic cleansing? That's a new one to me, dude.
Right now we're helping Gaza. But if they were given the opportunity, I think even higher than that, the group that did the poll is usually, I call them negative pollsters. You have a lot of them. And yet this poll was, I think, very accurate, other than it would be more than half the people if given the opportunity, but they haven't been given that opportunity.
It's a negative pollster, but you know, they're doing exactly the thing that I want them to say. So actually, is it really a negative pollster? I don't think so. I'm just so curious. What is this fucking pollster that they're talking about? Let me see if I can find that. Poll half of Gazans want to leave. Sure. So this is from Mediaite, basically. Trump touts poll showing half of Gazans want to leave. To me, it's common sense. Let's see. During a press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Monday, President Donald Trump touted a new poll that showed half of the people living in Gaza would leave if given the chance. I heard that number today. Half of Gaza would leave. I've always said it. The Palestinian Center for Policy and survey research surveyed people from across the Gaza Strip and in the occupied West Bank. Well, that certainly dilutes things a little bit if they're also surveying people in the West Bank for this poll, okay? Between May 1st and 4th, according to Reuters, the poll was conducted some 6 weeks after Israeli forces resumed operations in Gaza. If you were given the opportunity to live in a better climate, they would move. They're there because they sort of have to be. I think it would be a great opportunity, but let's see if that opportunity presents itself. We're helping the people of Gaza a lot. So is Israel, by the way. Yeah, by breaking the tenets of the ceasefire about 800 fucking times and not allowing the necessary amount of like food aid to be able to go into the fucking Gaza Strip. But yeah, sure, guys, you guys are really helping a lot. So we'll see what happens, Trump continued. But I saw it was a poll. More than half of the people would leave given the temperature opportunity. And I've been saying for a long time, to me it's common sense. To me it was common sense, so it's interesting. Reuters reported that the poll showed almost half of Gazans may be willing to apply to Israel to help them leave to other countries. Well, that's not exactly the same as saying that a half of Gazans want to leave the Gaza Strip. They say that that half of Gazans may be willing to ask the Israelis to apply to leave to there. And I know that specifically, and this is something that's been broadly condemned by the entirety of the world, Israel recognized the breakaway state of Somaliland. And I'm assuming the reasoning for as to why they did that is for the express purpose of probably wanting to build some kind of military presence in the sort of region, but also for the express purpose of trying to forcibly displace Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and the West Bank over to, well, Somaliland or parts of northern Somalia, right? It's, again, anything for the express purpose of continuing the sort of ethnic cleansing campaign. If Israel can fucking do that, they will gladly do that. That's the entirety of the purpose of recognizing Somaliland for Israel. They want to, well, help facilitate the ethnic cleansing. That's the point. Why won't countries accept them? And I guess this is the sort of continued part here. So yeah, this is not exactly like the an accurate sort of portrayal for as to what that poll is asking by the President of the United States.
So we'll see what happens.
Have you reached a point of understanding regarding Syria?
We do have an understanding regarding Syria. Now, with Syria, you know, your new president, I respect him. He's a very strong guy, and that's what you need in Syria. You can't
So
put
strong.
A choir boy. You can't put somebody that's a perfect person. Everything's nice, no problems in life. You have the opposite there. He's a strong guy. We get along with him great.
Very strong.
I can't ask for any more. He's been with us all the way. We had that mishap with ISIS, and he was with us all the way. He was fighting us. You know, he was fighting them. So I hope Israel. I'm sure that Israel and him will get along. I will try and make it so that they do get along. I think they will. Maybe you have anything to say about that?
Ebert records.
Our interest is to have a peaceful border with Syria. Our interest is to have, and we openly say it, we want to make sure that the border area right next to our border is safe.
Well, no. You want to have a peaceful sort of time with Syria so you can continue justifying the sort of like greater Israel project. I mean, the Golan Heights is rightful Syrian territory, but you decided to occupy that territory for yourself, Benjamin Netanyahu, because Donald Trump said you could. Well, at the behest of Miriam Adelson. Honestly, no. If I recall correctly, that stuff with the Golan Heights in Syria, that was just like a little extra cherry on top that Trump decided to give to Miriam, right? That was like a little extra cherry.
We don't have terrorists, we don't have attacks. And we also want to secure our Jews and friends. And by the way, I think not only the Jews, but other minorities especially.
Yeah, you don't give a fuck about the Druze. It's not about the Druze minority. But by the way, this is like complete fucking poppycock and bullshit. Like, if you cared about minority populations within your country, then you would basically give like more help to a lot of the Holocaust survivors that exist, because Holocaust survivors within Israel get treated like absolute shit, and same with a lot of the Ethiopian Jews, but you don't really do that. Again, this isn't about the Druze specifically for Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. This is about the greater Israel project and general sort of imperialism.
The Christians should be protected as well in Syria and throughout the Middle East and in Nigeria. In your efforts, we back completely, because Christian communities are beleaguered around the world, and especially in the Middle East, but in parts of Africa too. And we stand for the same thing.
And don't forget, it was President Erdogan that helped very much get rid of a very bad ruler of Syria. That was President Erdogan. And he never wanted the credit for it, but he really gets a lot of credit. Maybe he agrees with that. I agree. I mean, I know it. And President Erdogan...
Well, HTS was the main sort of... the two main backers of HTS were specifically the Saudis and the Turks. The sort of like the Syrian nationalistic force that was HTS. I believe the main backers that the U.S. were going with were the YPJ and the SDF in that sort of area, and they ended up, well, losing the conflict, of course, to HTS when like Bashar al-Assad just all of a sudden just like collapsed out of nowhere.
One should get a lot of good credit for what he did. He got rid of some very bad people. And, you know, they've been wanting to do that for 1,000 years with different names, but for 1,000 years in Syria. President Erdogan did it, and we give him a lot of credit. I give him a lot of credit. But I think it's going to work out well between Syria and
1,000 years this has been going on.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
The Lebanese government, so what we saw, is not meeting the terms of the ceasefire agreement, has failed to disarm Hezbollah, actually. In your view, should Israel strike the terrorist organization again?
Well, we're going to see about that. We'll see about it. The Lebanese government is at a little bit of a disadvantage, if you think of it.
How are they going to go in and disarm Hezbollah exactly? Like the Syrian government has like no leverage to be able to do that, and again, the tenets of the ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel, guess who fucking broke that shit first? Oh, it was Israel again.
With Hezbollah, but Hezbollah has been behaving badly, so we'll see what happens.
They're so bad.
Another operation of Israel in Iran. You said before the meeting with Netanyahu that you are in support of Israel if the ballistic missile project will take on, and also the nuclear weapon. But after the meeting, after what you know from the intelligence, how close are we to another war with Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but Iran may be behaving badly. It hasn't been confirmed, but if it's confirmed, look, they know the consequences. You know, consequences will be very powerful. Maybe more powerful than the last time. Yeah. And Iran should have made a deal the last time. I gave them the option. I said, you can make a deal. Do it. I told them, do it. And they didn't believe me.
Well, it's not that they didn't believe you. They just didn't agree to the tenets of the fucking deal. Like, they just didn't agree. They were just like, no. Like, we're not going to capitulate to you in fucking Israel for, like, literally no reason. Like, if I recall, the sort of, like, unilateral disarmament and also, like, the profits from, like, unilateral disarmament of the nuclear capabilities was what the U.S. was basically negotiating for during those sort of like peace talks. They went for like 6 to 7 rounds, and it became more and more clear than ever that the United States of America were just not interested in finding a optimized like sort of solution in those like peace talks. So at that point, the Iranians were just like, okay, well, why should we continue peace talks in this particular instance? Like, they're not going anywhere. And the U.S. envoys are just not listening to any of our positions. Why the fuck should we care at this point?
I mean, now they believe
Do you have evidence that Iran is behaving badly, and what do you mean by that?
This is just what we hear. But usually,
That's what we hear.
There's fire. Have you heard the expression?
Well, what do you mean related to the nuclear
Well, no, I'm
capabilities?
hearing that they're not nuclear yet, but maybe nuclear too. The sites were obliterated, but they're looking at other sites. That's what I've heard. They're looking. So it'll take a long time. They're not going to go back to where they were, but they have other places they can go. And if they're doing that, they're making a big mistake. Yeah, please. There's no reason.
Yeah, like literally, like I said before, the capabilities were, I think, like estimated to have only been like tampered by like a couple of months. Like, these strikes were rather ineffective because, again, the not the Israelis, but before the strikes happened, the fucking Americans and the Iranians decided to have a chat and say, like, okay, so here's what we're going to do, here's what we're going to bomb, here's what we're going to hit, blah, 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 blah. Please make sure that there is no nuclear, like, fissile material in the area, because, again, like I've said before, if there was fissile material in the area, when those strikes happened, there would be a lot of adverse fucking consequences to that happening specifically. Like, for example, a bunch of stuff being kicked up into Russia. And nobody wants a bunch of nuclear material that's being kicked up into Russia that gets caught in the fucking winds when hit by those giant-ass fucking bunker buster bombs and it drifting over to Russia specifically. Like, that would be really, really fucking bad. So obviously, the locations where there may be potential for nuclear fissile material being potentially located in that area was essentially talked about with the Iranians and said, like, okay, like, just, like, move your fissile material so then we don't hit that shit, so then we don't kick a bunch of stuff up back into Israel and also towards the fucking Russians.
Reason for them to do it.
Mr. President, is the United States currently open to engaging in bilateral discussions with Tehran? We're hearing reports from numerous countries that there may be some discussions. Is that something you would support? Or
Yeah,
something that
I would.
You would support that?
I would, yes.
Right, thank you, sir.
I have been, by the way, before the war, I would support that. I said to them, maybe I said, let's negotiate. And they didn't believe what was going to happen would happen. Yes, ma'am.
On China. So China's been doing naval exercises basically to test encircling Taiwan. Can you explain to us what your knowledge is of that? What do you think about that? Have you had any discussions with
Well, I
China
have a
about
great
that?
relationship with President Xi, and he hasn't told me anything about it. I certainly have seen it.
Yeah, so currently I mean, this is standard stuff here, of course, by the Chinese. They are currently doing more military exercises around the South China Sea, relatively close to the Strait of Taiwan, right by Taiwan, basically, because, of course, similar to all these other fucking imperialist countries, the Taiwanese is also want a sort of like prize for the Chinese state For what purpose exactly? Again, justifications of like Han ethno fucking nationalism. Very, very cool.
But he hasn't told me anything about it, and I don't believe he's going to be doing it.
Does it worry you?
No, nothing worries me.
But
Nothing.
you said where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So if you're in circle, if you're doing naval exercises and air
I've been
exercises.
doing naval exercises for 20 years in that area. Now people take it a little bit differently, but in fact larger than they're doing right now. So we'll see. But they've been doing.
Oh, so you know it's fine when the Chinese are doing it in the Strait, but you know it's bad if like the Iranians are getting nuclear weapons in order to be able to defend themselves from like Zionist fucking aggression. Like again, whoa, it's all inherently fucking inconsistent because in reality, it's like there is no like real fucking policy here. Yeah, clearly I don't understand. But yeah, we need the one China policy. That's true, Zane.
That for 20, 25 years, yeah.
Mr. President, if you don't see Hamas disarm in that short amount of time they're giving them, can you tell us what the next steps
It's
would
going to
be?
be horrible for them. Horrible.
We're gonna fuck them up.
Really, really bad for them. And I don't want that to happen. But they made an agreement that they were going to disarm. And you couldn't blame Israel. By the way, we have other countries that will come in and do it.
Again, like I've said before, I don't think that they should disarm. I see no reason whatsoever for the for specifically the Hamas to disarm. I don't think they should disarm. I'm going to be quite honest. Why should they disarm? Again, in terms of the phase 1 of the ceasefire proposal, Israel has been the main sort of power in that sort of ceasefire proposal, who has been violating it fucking consistently. So again, why should Hamas believe that Israel is negotiating in good faith when there has been no effort put in by the part of the Israelis to ever negotiate in good faith when it comes to specifically ceasefire proposals being done in this sort of particular arena? There is no reason for them to believe anything that comes out of the mouth of the fucking Israelis, because again, that fucking ceasefire proposal was pure fucking LARP shit from the beginning.
They said, let us do it for you if they don't. Countries that were with them wanted the deal to be made, agreed that they would disarm, and now if they say they're going to disarm, that's fine. If they say they're not going to disarm, those same countries will go and wipe them out.
Again, like I said before, they don't want to disarm now because again, like one side of the sort of equation here, that being the Israelis, are not acting in good faith.
They don't even need Israel. You know, we have many countries, 59 countries that are, this is a real peace in the Middle East. And Hamas is a small part of it, but it's still a part of it. But we have 59 countries that signed on, big countries that are outside of
huge countries.
Middle East, as you know, the Middle East. They want to go in and wipe out Hamas. They don't want Israel. They don't need Israel. They want to do it because it's the right thing to do. Because they were for the deal based on the fact that Hamas pledged. They swore.
So are they? Is he talking about the fucking Abrahamic Accords here or something? Like what the fuck is he exactly talking about? Like, yeah, they're gonna go in and wipe out because like Hamas said they do it, but they're not gonna do it now. I have no idea what's going on. Dog, like again, they're having problems with the tenets of the fucking ceasefire because again, one side has violated it like about 800 fucking times. It makes a lot of sense. They may not or they may have some potential issues with the tenets of the fucking ceasefire being upheld by the Israelis for the simple fact that the Israelis keep breaking the fucking goddamn ceasefire over and over and over and over and over again. It makes a lot of sense. Kind of checks out. I don't know. Seems rather simple here.
That they were going to disarm. Now, if they're not going to disarm, those same countries will wipe out Hamas. Yeah.
President Trump, do you think that the PA should be involved the day after in Gaza Strip in the near future? And the same question to Prime Minister Netanyahu. Do you see a real opportunity that the PA will be in Gaza?
Go ahead, baby.
I think President Trump put clearly the conditions that of reform he wants to see in the PA for them to be involved. And I think he put it very clearly what he wants to see, the kind of real reforms. Not
talking about the Palestinian Authority.
Real reforms. Stop pay to slay, change the curriculum in your textbooks, open up a different society and a different future. If they do,
in the near future?
well, let them, I think it was clear. He put the guidelines that were, by the way, in the Trump plan of 2020. And they were put then in the 20 points. And it's up to them.
Remember this, if we didn't do what we did to Iran, just to make the subject slightly different, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. You wouldn't have a deal signed in the Middle East. You wouldn't have a deal. Because other Arab nations, which are great people, I know them very well, I know them, they're great people, they wouldn't be able to agree to peace in the Middle East because you would have had a dark cloud hanging over everything. It wouldn't have been possible. So, Iran,
I mean, they don't really necessarily agree with a lot of the tenets that are going on here. They have problems with it because, again, like, Israel has just not been negotiating in good faith. Like, there's already still problems here in terms of this, I don't know, quote-unquote fucking dark cloud that exists or something. Because, again, Israel has never negotiated in good faith when it comes to any of this stuff.
Iran has been greatly reduced in power, prestige. I don't want to use the word humiliation because, they're trying to build up again. But we can't let them build up because if they build up, there can't be peace in the Middle East. It was a mistake. When they wiped out Iraq and Iran were about the same power. And they fought each other with different names for 1,000 years. And then our country came out and blew up one of those two countries, namely Iraq. And all of a sudden, Iran had the whole Middle East all to itself. But that's not true anymore. That's not true anymore.
Tell us something about
I guess that's him, like, sort of talking about, I don't know, like, the reasonings for as to why the United States decided to go in for, like, Desert Storm or some shit, I guess.
plan to expand Abraham Accords. If you can tell us something about your plan to expand Abraham Accords.
Well, the Abraham Accords are there's a great achievement of Jared and everybody. I mean, it was one of the great achievements. They'll be expanded. Countries are already talking about expanding it, and they'll be expanded fairly quickly.
Yeah, please. Saudi Arabia, is it still on the table?
Saudi Arabia is great. We have a great leader, and a friend of mine, and a friend of a lot of people. Also,
yeah, Saudi Arabia has had a lot of problems and concerns with the Abrahamic Accords because of the fact that Israel keeps breaking the tenets of the fucking ceasefire over and over and over again.
So an enemy of some people, but those people aren't doing so well. No, Saudi Arabia has been very good as far as I'm concerned. They've done everything that we can ask for.
But normalization with Israel is on the
They're getting along great with Israel. They will. And at some point, they'll sign the Abraham Accords.
Mr. President of the Fed. So one of the big domestic tasks ahead of you is to pick a new chairman for the Fed.
Yeah.
We do know about the fact that, again, like, a lot of the tenets of the sort of ceasefire have not been followed, and one of the big signatories that Trump wants to get for the Abrahamic Accords is, of course, the Saudis. And the reason why the Saudis are not going along with this is because they know that if they were to sign with the Abrahamic Accords, they may have some problems domestically as a byproduct, because, again, everyone fucking hates Israel, dog, in the Middle East because of their, like, sheer amount of fucking belligerence they keep acting in. Nobody really fucking likes them because of the fact that they just are a destabilizing force within the fucking Middle East, and nobody really likes them. And as a byproduct and a result of this inherent destabilization that is consistently being caused by the Israelis, a lot of people in the Middle East really do not like them whatsoever. But again, there is so far they've been rather apprehensive in terms of supporting Israel's bid to try to normalize these relations through the Abrahamic Accords, simply due to the fact that they just keep, well, failing to adhere to many of the tenets of the fucking ceasefire. And a lot of these sort of regional players within the Middle East are not happy with their actions.
You said that you have one favorite, but you're
I
also
do.
doing interviews.
Still
So
do. Hasn't changed. I'll announce them at the right time. There's plenty of time.
Are you?
But in the meantime, we're doing numbers that nobody's ever seen. We have $18 trillion coming in. We had a 4.3% GDP. They thought it was going to be 2%. And that's despite the Democrat shutdown. Had the shutdown not occurred, we would have had an extra point and a quarter. Think of that. We are doing, and also just...
Yeah, he's again getting mad about Jerome Powell not doing what he wants with the rates, because essentially, like, Trump just wants a bunch of his Wall Street buddies to gamble on the bond markets.
Despite the fact that we have a fool at the Federal Reserve. I mean, Biden reappointed him. It's too bad. You would have thought he wouldn't have done that. But he's an absolute fool who's building...
Again, Jerome Powell is who he originally appointed as Fed chair.
A new Federal Reserve, or he's doing a renovation of a building. Maybe he's up to $4.1 billion to do a renovation of a few very small buildings. It's the highest price in the history of construction.
He's lying about this.
He's spending more money than any building has ever spent per square foot on the renovation of... As an example, I'm doing a magnificent, big, beautiful ballroom that the country's wanted, the White House has wanted for 150 years. It's a massive job, and it's a tiny fraction of that number.
Nobody wants the fucking ballroom. He's the only one who wants the ballroom.
And we're under budget and ahead of schedule. Now it's bigger than I told you. It's after realizing we're going to do the inauguration in that building, it's got all bulletproof glass. It's got all drone. They call it drone-free roof. The drones won't touch it. It's a big, beautiful, safe building. But it's a big budget for a tiny fraction of that. We're under budget and ahead of schedule. And they wanted it for 150 years. Think of it. The Federal Reserve building, 2 buildings there. They don't know what they're doing. They're way over budget. I mean, almost. This was built during the Biden administration, and I wrote by the other day, and it's headed by the head of the Federal Reserve. Too late, too late, Powell. Too late, because he's always too late with interest rates, except before the election. It was too early, because that would have helped. That was supposed to help get her elected. It had no impact. We won all 7 swing states. But no. We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence, because think of it. These aren't outstanding buildings. These are small buildings. These are $4 billion more. It's going to end up costing more.
So he's going to. So I guess now the plan for him is to try to sue Jerome Powell for what exactly? Like. Because again, like, his main sort of, like, strategy of trying to go after his political opponents is, like, trying to sue them for mortgage fraud, which I find very funny because he got sued for that as well and found guilty of that. So that's hilarious to me. But whatever, hypocrisy, whatnot, blah blah blah. Every time he's tried to do this in order to try to get retaliations against his political opponents, those he perceives as having wronged him, it's not really worked out, because again, the basis of those lawsuits have just been completely fucking nonsensical.
$4 billion. $4 billion. It's the highest price of construction. Again, Democrats, highest price of construction per square foot in the history of the world. There's never been.
Again, like, why are you bringing up the fucking Democrat? What exactly do the Democrats have to do with any of this stuff? It's, again, it's just fucking weird.
Gorgeous monuments are built for a much smaller price. So we're thinking about bringing a gross incompetence, what's called gross incompetence lawsuit. It's gross incompetence against Powell, and it was his baby.
Wait, that's the fucking charge? Gross incompetence? I'm so ready to see this. I'm so ready to see that fucking lawsuit get thrown out immediately, because that's just like, what the fuck kind of charge is that? It's like, he's just incompetent. He's just an idiot. It's like, okay, man. I mean, we can say this exact same for you, but whatever. Like, this is coming from the dude who can barely read at like a fucking 5th grade level.
The guy's just incompetent. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. He's just a very incompetent man, but we're going to probably bring a lawsuit against him. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. BB, congratulations.
Mr. President, when do you expect an announcement then on Powell's replacement?
January something.
And will you ask Jay Powell to resign?
Well, no. The thing is that Jerome Powell is slated to have his tenure basically be over during that time. Like, it's not Trump who's replacing Trump. It's just not how that works. But whatever.
Well, it should be done. You know, be a favor to the nation. But he's come close. I mean, we're getting pretty close. I would fire him. I'd love to fire him, but we're so close. You know, maybe I still might.
Will you sell F-35 to Turkey?
Say it.
That would be illegal.
F-35 to Turkey?
We're thinking about it very seriously.
What prevented they'll never use it?
Wait just a second. We have one more thing to share.
We want to say a heartfelt thank
Okay, thank you. I guess that's that for that sort of, like, I don't know, collection of schizophrenia. I mean, you know, as expected, just like, I don't know, the first sort of presser that he had with, I was going to say Benjamin Netanyahu, but with Zelensky. Similar lies, just complete utter nonsense he was being said there. Obviously, no mention of the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu and the state of Israel, who are being the main problems in terms of the implementation of the ceasefire, because of the fact that they just keep violating its fucking tenets over and over and over again. Why? Because, again, for the Israelis, it's fairly obvious what they want. They just simply want the ethnic cleansing of all Palestinians in the region, so then they could take all the territory for themselves. Again, it's a fucking ethno-state. That's what Zionism always has been, a justification to want to do ethnic cleansing of the region. That's literally about it. But is Trump going to basically call on any of Netanyahu's lies and bullshit and the sort of problems that the ceasefire is basically having right now because of Netanyahu's general sort of belligerent? No, belligerence rather? No, of course not, because in reality he's totally okay with all of the belligerent bullshit that's happening in the Middle East. So again, I don't think there's like really much else to say besides well, blood is equally on the hands of Benjamin Netanyahu in terms of the murder of Palestinian children and families in that particular region, just as much as is with Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Shouldn't be really surprised about the fact that those two fucking stooges right there are complete lying fucking nutter butters.